Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Shane Strange, and I'm the Artistic Director here at Queensland Poetry. I just want to say that Queensland Poetry operates on the dispossessed land of the Yuggera and Turrbal country. We acknowledge the Yuggera and Turrbal elders, past and present, who have the right and responsibility to care for country according to wisdom passed down over thousands of generations, and to the ancestors who formed that land and gifted it to the Yuggera and Turrbal, and Indigenous sovereignty was never ceded. At Queensland Poetry, we're committed to promoting and supporting voices and poets of country. And if you're in Australia, if you're coming to us from Australia, you're on country, and maybe you want to say good day from your country in the comments. I'd also like to acknowledge the Queensland Government who support Queensland Poetry through Arts Queensland. It's very much appreciated. Today is a bit of a big deal. It's not only World Poetry Day, which we're all about here at Queensland Poetry, but Harmony Day, which celebrates cultural diversity and inclusion, which we're also all about here at Queensland Poetry. It also happens to be Nowruz, which is the Persian Iranian New Year. So happy Nowruz to everybody. So it's an auspicious day to kick off our 2022 program with this online event, Singapore Emerging, co-presented with our friends over at the Singapore Writers Festival, perhaps one of the world's best literary festivals, besides our own, of course. And thank you I want to say thanks, a shout out to Pooja and Olivia and all your team over there for connecting with us and for being part of the festival. Tonight, we have two readings from two new and exciting voices coming out of the vibrant and in many ways enviable poetry scene over in Singapore, Ali Chua and Loon Lo. First up, it's my pleasure to welcome Ali Chua. Ali is a Singaporean poet, of course. She was the 2019 Singapore Unbound Fellow for New York City and has been published in the Quarterly Literary Review, Singapore, Cordite Poetry Review, and Lammergeier magazine. She works in the communications field and writes in her free time. So would you please welcome Ali Chua?
Thanks, Shane. Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you. I heard it's 7 p.m. over at Australia, so I hope you're off work already and tuning in to this poetry reading. So I'm going to read a couple of my poems today. I will start off with a few poems that is very familiar, very centered around parent-child relationships and domesticity. My first poem is called Strings. It was actually published by the Australian journal Cordite Poetry Review. So if you'd like to read it, I think if you Google for Ali Chua Cordite Poetry Review, it will show up. So here goes. Strings. I slice the rib pork. Blood seeps onto plastic cutting board. My mom says blunt knives are safe. I am not a doctor, but surely clean amputation is safer than dull chop, pulling and tugging until the decayed spine snaps off. In any case, we have never done things the easy way. It will not taste good if we do not bleed into the mix. The same secret recipe everywhere. Prodigal child returns. I keep separating flesh from marrow. But what else can I fixate on if not the uncut umbilical cord? The day I turned legal, I laid under a man. Watched as he jabbed needles into my back. The ink says, I will never be you. Still I grow into your skin, the same disjointed smile. Still I hoard grievances, the way you hoard old toys. Still I have the same nightmares. My fingers lock onto soft flesh until skin spills open, a mess of seeds and clots. Shh, don't let the neighbors stare. I look down and see wrinkled hands, spider veins, shaky enough to feel sharp edges. I do not want a daughter. I know the iron I used to defy you will be forged strong enough to subdue her too. Okay, so that is strings. And if you can tell, it's about parent mother child relationship, or more specifically mother daughter relationships. I wrote it because I think it's we can I'm sure that all of us have complicated relationship with certain parental figures in our lives. For me, it's with me and my mother, and that was why I wrote it. The next poem, well, I have wrote about my mom, so now it's a poem about um, father figures, and this is called Dad. Dad, I'm the same age you were when you left for milk and never came home. They saw your spaceship leaving town, fenders to dent from the meteorite crater. For years, I drove slow past every convenience store, failed math and science so you could correct my arithmetic. That if you could leave me for Venus, you must not love me enough to stay home. Little brother still writes you. I hold enough rage for the both of us. I dare not orbit our black hole of a home. Instead, I stay with a boy made of red earth, even knowing one day he too will leave our child behind. There are infinite universes, so there is one where you never left, and there is one where you have blinked out of time. I'm in the universe with the expired milk, and I am still waiting for you to return. Alright, that is that. The next poem is called Nothing in This House Works Anymore. Nothing in this house works anymore. My grandma says as we knead flour into pasty dough, besides the carcass of the old Philips mixer. The lamp flickers so often I am used to ghosts. The heat comes in pulses, fraying tempers, cracking tiles. My brother tries to resuscitate the fan, motionless since its demise in the heat wave of 2010. 2 nights ago, my womb stopped ticking along with the house clock. I do not know how to speak of it. My tongue was lost years ago in an accident with a knife. The table rocks as we gather for dinner. Ma cleaves my heart when she asks about my daughter. We should renovate the house, she says, before the baby comes. All wires are fire hazards. Okay, so that was a trio of domestic poems. Now I'll be moving on to a few others that's a bit more abstract, a bit more, well, non-domestic. Blackbird Gallery. On the lacquered shelves, all the heroes plucked from my body. The Leviathan, the Lithopedion, the tar birds in a row. To see a wild beast up close, you have to kill it, stuff it with stone, mount it, pin its wings onto cork. Come in, for a token fee, this freak show. What good is shame if it can't be spun into a fable? Here, this girl let the wolf in, and it tore her straw throat. Babe, babe, I never asked for this. You stole from me what was worth keeping, and in the corner, all that I hold sacred hung from a twine rope. Okay, so that was Blackbird Gallery. My next poem is one of the more recent one that I wrote. Um, I was doing research for something else, and I rediscovered the story of Halley's Comet, which I think we are all familiar with. We see it. I'm sure it's in all the astronomy books and science textbooks that we encounter, and essentially is about uh, the only short period comet that we can see with our naked eye and it returns to Earth every 76 years. And I was moved to write this poem because I thought about how we take for granted certain events that are actually very wondrous or very moving. And in this case, for Halley's Comet, Edmund Halley, for whom the comet was named after, he actually he observed it in 1682, this comet, and he and his astronomer friends made realized that in historical record there are three other comets that appear every 76 years or so. And so Edmund Halley, he had a hypothesis that all these comet sightings through historical record was actually the same comet, and he made a prediction that it will return in 1758. And but the tragedy was that, and what I found really sad was that he died in 1742 before he could observe the predicted return of Halley's comet. And so as a result, he never knew whether he was right, whether Halley's comet was indeed the first short period comet to return to Earth's orbit every 76 years. And so I wrote this poem, Halley's Comet. Ask Hades about the absence of Persephone in 8 months of summer and light, or Penelope, weighed down with 20 years on her brow. Any waiting lover, when the space between letters grows pronounced. Faith is faint beam against the negative space of seasons. Understand, letting go is an act of risk, and sometimes the beloved does not return. Every lover knows desire does not sever clean. It lingers long after the last rays of love. Strange how we make space for ghosts. Even now I can picture Grandma, how she would have loved this particular cut of bone years after the last rose on her bureau mound. So Halley, against the odds, trusts that a celestial body will return when there's never been a precedent. That somewhere in the cosmos dotted with supernatural nebulas, something as brilliant as a glacier with a fire tail found reason to come back again and again to our world. Okay, that is Halley's Comet. I'll read one last poem. I think I'm running out of time. Yeah. So the last poem is a long boy, as the kids say nowadays. It's the first long poem I wrote, and I wrote it as a way to navigate, to kind of understand my complicity in bad relationships. I think when we speak of heartbreak, it's always things being done upon us. We were hurt by someone. You hurt me. You broke my heart. Things like that. But I was wondering, right, if let's say you are the common denominator in all your failed relationships, does that mean that something is ultimately flawed with you? If you're complicit? And this poem was my way of trying to negotiate that. So here we go. The boys in the lined up. Suppose one night when you're ready for bed, your phone rings and it's the police, asking if you could identify a boy from a lined up. So you head to the station and see them in a row. Your father, your lover, your future son, and a ghost you can't quite make out. Baby is in the shape of the boy you buried in your yard, or the dead weight on the other side of the bed. All of them have seen you nude. All of them have seen your best side, and your shadow over them at 4 a.m. with a shovel and a pack of ice. All of them have flayed you from heart to marrow, and you figure out who you're supposed to save. See, all the boys you love have left, so it must mean you like broken things. Like a loose slate of wood between your gift and its yielding, it's been hollow all this time. Of course it's you to the rescue, the crime scene cleanup. And you wonder, how long can you dust it off your hands, return to a quiet room, a cold room, without the warmth of bodies or their festering stench. So, suppose one night when you're ready for bed, your phone rings and it's the police. They ask, can you identify the body on the highway, in the hospice, sign off on the time of death, collect your heart in disembodied scraps, return to sender. You must swallow hard knob in your throat and touch mangled mess. You must identify the thing it used to be. You must make the eulogy and it will go. All good things must end. You know this, yet endings are chapters you refuse to shut. Schrodinger's boys in the box, in the yard. If you try hard enough, maybe they'll come back to life. And if they didn't, what could be worse? What could be worse? Suppose one night when you're ready for bed, your phone rings and it's the police. Your daddy has broke your mother's jaw. Your son the killer in the driver's seat. Your lover a noose tied around your neck. Look at you. While he does the dirt off his hands, you worry about the sleep he is not getting. A monster must know a monster, so maybe you hammered him into the shape that you want. See, you know this. A lined up is not meant to save. So, pick him up, the boy you could not fix. Because this lineup is you, cut into parts on the other side of the glass. The only one guilty, the only one with the shovel, you are the ghost and the last unknown in this lineup. Suppose one night you just stayed by the phone and waited for the storm to happen, for the killing blow, and the boys in the lineup, they wait. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Shane.
Wow, that was just amazing. Thank you so much. Geez, I feel like I need a little break between Ali and our next reader, but we have no such luck here. We're moving on to Loon Lo, who will be reading for us next. Lune is a core member of Sabre, a Singaporean writing collective, and is finishing her undergraduate degree at the National University of Singapore. Her works have appeared in Evergreen Review, Soft Blow, Chua, Cordite Poetry Review, and in various Sing Po Rimo issues from 2017 to 2019. So if you'll join us in giving a virtual round of applause to Loon Lo. Welcome, Lune.
Okay, can everyone hear me? I hope people can. Hi, my name is Lune. I'm graduating from the National University of Singapore very soon. Still writing my thesis, making time for this away from my thesis, but I think it's worth it. Yeah, and I'm thinking, yeah, I guess I shall just read my greatest hits, which means my published poems, and that means I'm going to read some. I usually write themes about being transgender in Singapore, or well, it's not necessarily specific to Singapore. I do write about politics. I do write about all kinds of things, love, geometric objects. Yeah, like that sort of assortment, I would say. Okay, but first up, I shall present to you something I published in Cordite as well. Ellie had this wonderful reading, and I really love her works. And I also have a poem that is published in Cordite, although not in the same year, I think. And it's called Moonface. Moonface. So, okay, I'll be copying and pasting like the links to the poems as well. Okay, so let me try this. Yep, so this is Moonface. The sea of fecundity is acne from an eternity of puberty. The dark side is always covered by hair. Acne erupts in a forest unseen. There is no face without hair. There were phases without hair. They still insist on long hair being a face. Being new was supposed to be the absence of a face. Being new is being unable to face having no face, especially without hair. Gibbous curls shift in an eclipse of 100 years, and everyone watches. An oblique profile. Picture it. Eclipses are a return to hiding. To be full of courage for one night a month only. To face out every other day. To be up every night. To return to light pollution as home. To smile or frown without eyes to see yourself. To see eternity as a face. Yep, so that was Moon Phase. This is obviously meant to be read a lot slower than that, but yeah, it was one of my earliest poems that were published. I hope you liked it. Okay, and next up, I shall read one poem that is published in this Singaporean international journal called Soft Blow. And I wrote, and this poem is called An Empty Vase to His Love. So it's after Pooja Nancy, who happens to be the director for Singapore's Writers' Festival, and who has also helped me, given me and Ali the opportunity to be reading here this evening. So this is An Empty Vase to His Love, after Pooja Nancy. Dreaming on a bastu, on an infinity of regression of dreaming bar stools. We in a dream bar, you crafting cocktails, Bob, me in a telegram command at your username. We watching Europe go by as art no view. Two blue ticks consent to a means to an end. 4 morning, Bartolome, eyelids/lips. Poems for you soaked in vodka and tomorrow. You opening whiskey and observer effect. Sizes A4 on the rocks, A3 shaken, A2 stirred. One night, we went to a bar to drink water. One day, we discovered alcohol to be water. I woke up in a universe without dreams. We watched the bartender set Twin Suns. Being in itself and being for itself, for myself. Thank you. So that was An Empty Vase to His Love. And the link I posted, there's a kind of like a sister poem called Sleep Paralysis as Lucid Dreaming, but I guess I won't be reading that. I mean, you can definitely read it in your own time. And also because of time, I'm not going to read that. But thank you so much for listening. And I guess I have some time for maybe 2 more poems. So this one is published in an American journal called Evergreen Review, which plenty of cool people have been published in, many cool Singaporean poets. And I think in the 60s, it's a pretty old journal. In the 60s, they published like Sartre and Samuel Beckett or something like that. It was quite cool to find that out. So I have like 5 poems published in their spring summer 2020 issue, and I want to read out the poem that is it's one of my so-called lesbian poems, and I hope you enjoy it as well. So this one's called Femme Dialectics, a Process. So as it was imperative, as it was indecisive, as if a decision by a scion, as if a scorpion extension, the regard of a double claw, double bind, the finding of the divine on a clear night. It was allowed for the vines to drip wine, yet a wine of the ocean dissolving strata into data, the fermenter of the anti-border that burns older. Either the queen of the night or the queen of the day turns over into ordination, into sublimation, the double sheaves and indignation, of which variable deltas flow, of which there exist possibilities, of which are snow, of which are now. So yeah, that was Van Dialectics, The Process. It's quite I do tend to write short poems, I guess. I don't really have long boys like Ellie has. Not, I mean, I have a few, but I don't really talk about them that much. And there's not much time to read them, so I shall read another short poem. This one is published in it was for some queer anthology thing, for some queer festival thing by the ASEAN Soji Caucus. It's called An Anthology of Queer Southeast Asian Poetry in a Pandemic, edited by Rodrigo. And so this poem is called Desiring Virology, kind of like well, desire and well, COVID-19, and yeah, what happens if you mix those up together, right? And it's kind of like what my observations were of like the pandemic and queerness. So here goes. So desiring virology. Interstices. COVID-19 as machine, what Vidya foretold. So unlike us so sun-rimmed and moon-eyed, all at once essence, now surrendering. Deus ex libido et libido ex machina, or what Marx prophesies, God as denaturing, as nature denaturing fast, fascist. Elegy written into circuit, Trojan, flesh scripted into fearful proximity, unlife, undeath, transistor territory, a corona discharge. We auto-produce 1,000 distances from ourselves, from techno-virality planes, intensities. Yep, so that was, yeah, it's kind of like a page poem. It's not great for reading, but I felt like there was some rhythm to that at least, so it deserved a bit of a reading and trying out as well. So I guess I have like 3 more minutes, and I guess I shall read out maybe a poem that I haven't managed to publish so far. I had this series of poems called like the construction poems. So there's like pre-construction and there's post-construction, and a lot of it is just about trauma, like trans trauma, sisterhood, and telling the stories of your sisters. And so this one's called Pre-Construction 2, and I shall copy paste this as well. This one's actually some of a longish poem, so do bear with me. So this is Pre-Construction 2. Content warning for gore, and I'll give 5 seconds. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. So this is Pre-Construction 2. Sister, the moment I write you, you redshift, you nebulous, galactic, receding into a past less described, but far too vast. To write for you is to sweep a floor with a bloated plank. Uncovering the rotten wood leads a journey into the boiler to one point of vantage. We once tried to navigate these stars, our stars, where home is nowhere to be found, where the Oedipal muscle clenches a lurking space-time, more so than a bad memory. Still, homework recalls, weaved hard. The knots that were relations have crystallized. A binary pair of stars is so unlike a three-body system, and even then, both fail to describe the layers of your waking hours found in this sea foam of nightmares. I reach into your unguent tides, cutting another man you have shot, for you could no longer speak again. I still do not realize in the color of his guts, a clear mycelium to your present or future, or find even the circuitry that reroutes your pain in graphic detail to yourself without yourself or consent. I gut another fractal of veins. There's still no more time later to build spaces big enough for us. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I believe I hit the 7:30 or Melbourne time or 5:30 Singapore time mark. So thank you so much, Shane, 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 and Ray and Ellie and yeah, everyone at Queensland and Poetry Festival for inviting all of us. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lune. That was quite amazing. I really appreciate both you and Ali tuning in and helping us set off our festival, our online festival anyway, with your wonderful poetry. It's lovely to be exposed to your work, and I hope our audience really appreciates you tuning in and reading some of your fantastic poetry. Thank you so much. Well, I hope you enjoyed those readings from Ali and Luna. Thanks to both of you for being part of the night. And once again, thank you to the Singapore Writers Festival for collaborating with us in bringing tonight's event to you. They'll be doing their festival in November, I believe, this year. So keep an eagle eye out for what's happening over there. Of course, this is the first in a series of online events happening as part of Emerge, which is the theme for our festival this year. We'll be bringing you various poetry sessions in the lead up to our live festival, which will be happening in Meanjin, Brisbane, in early June this year. But where can I find what's happening, Shane? I hear you ask. And the answer is that we've got it all up live on our website at QPF, Queensland Poetry, QLD poetry.org, where you can find the entire program and how to book and to see what's happening over the next 3 months as we gear up for our festival. I want to shout out quickly to Busty Beats for helping put everything together as the guest curator here at Queensland Poetry, and to everyone at Queensland Poetry for offering such wonderful support over the last few months as everything's come together. Our next free online event is Borderless on April the 11th. It's hosted by Saba Vasefi, featuring Lucy Van, Marjan Mosemaparast, Medina Ahmad, and Yasaman Begheri. I hope you can join us. Take care, and we'll see you again very soon. Thank you very much.